Step is to install the Java virtual machine, the Java development kit, and we were going to be using the open source JDK. And the easiest way to do that is this adopt open JDK. I've already navigated here. It's adoptopenjdk.net. They give you the option of JDK 8, 11, or 15. We'll be using JDK 11, and the hotspot or the OpenJG JVM, we'll use the hotspot. I'm not sure what the difference is. Click on latest release and that will download it for you. And since it takes a few minutes, I've already downloaded it here. And once it's downloaded, it's an installation package. You can simply double click it and decide to continue. Here's the software license agreement. Make sure you read every single word of that before agreeing to it. And we will simply install it. The install doesn't take as long as it does to download it. Okay, so let's keep that just in case. The second piece is the Apache Netbeans. So that's the URL is netbeans.apache.org/download. And there are even more options here. We're going to use the latest one, Apache 12 Feature Update 1, which is version 12.2. And they take you through a few screens here. So if we do that, we then get the various options. In this case, we are on Mac OS, and so we want to select the Mac OS one. That takes even longer to download, and so I've already downloaded it. It downloads it as an image file. So when we double click that opens it, and within the image file is our package installer. So we want to double click that, and again we continue. Here is the Apache Netbeans license agreement. Make sure you read every single word of that before agreeing to it. And we are just going to install it. This will take a little bit. Okay, so we're done, and we can eject this, and we're ready to run Apache Netbeans. If it's not located, we can find it from the launcher. Here it is. And the first time we run it, it comes up with this little splash screen. There are some useful links in there if you want to explore that. It's not really necessary. If you don't want to see this, you can simply uncheck the show on startup and then close this down. Now comes the work. What we are going to be doing is using this to create projects. Actually, just one project will be in the main one that we'll use. So how do we create a project? If we go to the upper left, we have the little brown box there. Alternatively, we can do File, New Project. That works as well. Either way, we click on this. It says, now, Java with Maven, we don't want that. Java with Gradle, we don't want that. Again, there's nothing wrong with those. It's just we will be using Java with Ant. What's Ant, you ask? Well, that's what we can explain that later. The main thing is that's what we'll be doing. Choose new class library. The bottom three you don't want to select. If you select Java application, that's not the end of the world, but it'll just create a few extra files that we don't really need. Okay, so continue. Now we want to name our project CS2173, and notice the case there, and that says that for me it already exists and it's not empty. So what I'm going to do, it's because I've already done this somewhere, so I will put it somewhere else. So here's an example of just kind of putting it in another location. That's actually a terrible location. So let me, where shall I put it? Let me put it in just plain old documents. Okay, so again, name of this Netbeans project, CS2173. I'm putting it in documents. You can put it wherever you want. And again, just as a double check, this is exactly where it's going to be going. Now, the one thing before we click OK, we want to make sure that you click this box to use a dedicated folder for storing libraries. We won't be using that at first, but later when we start to use some third-party libraries, that's going to come in very handy. So we do next, and now we have our project, and it appears in this little navigation bar, navigation panel. And there are 3 tabs here. We'll mostly be working from the Projects tab. Occasionally from the File tab, there's one for Services. Again, this is very useful for some more advanced things, but we won't really be using that very much. Here, it looks roughly like a file structure, which it kind of is. And we see that there are source packages, which we'll be mostly working from, and then one called libraries. And actually, the only library we have is the JDK itself. So we won't be touching that. Now, in addition to, okay, so we've created our project, but now we want to start writing our code. And our code, all Java code goes into a named package. Notice that there's a thing called here default package. No Java file should go in there. In fact, Netbeans kind of complains a little bit if you try to do that. So here's what we're talking about. Again, this will be made more clear as you start to work on it. So you want to right-click on Source Packages and choose Java Package. And that'll bring up this dialog, and we want to enter the name. And the name, CS2173. Notice the difference between the package name and the project name. The project has uppercase CS, and the package name is lowercase cs. So hopefully that isn't too confusing. And we can finish that, and you see what it does. It actually kind of creates a little item over here. We want to create our, again, what are we doing? We're just going to do the hello world, which is the first program you always do in every language. And so again, we right-click on the package, and we want to select a new Java main class. And we see that there's, what do we have our choices? Folder, Java package, Java class, but that's not Java main class, Java interface. These are all useful things in their context, but not what we're looking for. So anything that's not there, we select other, and you see that there's lots of stuff that you can do in Netbeans. It's basically a professional grade IDE, but we want a Java main class, and here it is. So we select that, and after we do it once, this will appear in the drop-down, so we won't have to do it but once. Okay, so the name of our class that we're creating is called Hello World. Again, just as a double check, we're in the right project. The location is going to be in the source packages, but in the specific package here, if that's not there, then you can actually select it at this point. And then finally, just as a final check, this actually will show us where in the file system this hello world.java file is going to be. And if we say OK, then it actually writes a bunch of stuff for us. This is fairly, the thing about Java is that there's a lot of machinery it takes just to do something as simple as hello world. So here this identifies what package it's in. That always has to be the first line. Again, as the course goes on, we'll see what packages are about. This is the class. It's defined to be public. Again, what the difference between public and other things is going to be explained as the course goes on. And then finally, this is the main method. And as befits its name, that's where things actually get executed. So, all right, now, so we want to print hello world to the console. Now, in most languages, we would do that by saying print and then say hello world. And then in Java, every line has to end with a semicolon. But as you can see, we have this little red squiggly here, which is complaining, and it says it can't find the symbol print. And that's because Java just likes to make things a little more complicated. So we can't just say print. We have to do the following. We have to say system dot out dot print line, print ln, print ln. Okay, and that's now the red squiggly has gone away, and now we can run it. So how do we run it? Well, there are several ways. One is we can right-click somewhere in the main class that we have, and then simply choose Run File. And here in the console, you can see it did a bunch of stuff, but the main thing was that it printed out Hello World there. There's another way. We can use this green play button up here. And if we click on that, we say, okay, the project it'll run whatever the current main class of the project is, but we have to select it. So we select it, and again, we get Hello World. We can also run it in debug mode, and that's the one right next to it. And debug mode basically runs it pretty much the same way, except that it gives you the possibility of stopping and stepping through stuff. Toward the end of the course, hopefully, time permitting, we'll investigate the debugger because it's a very powerful and useful tool. We can also run the debugger, actually, if we right-click in the file and then select debug as well. Okay, so what have we done? We have, well, first we've installed Java, we've installed Netbeans, we've created our first project, we have written Hello World, and we have done it the right way by putting it into a named package. And the next step is to coordinate all this with GitLab, and that's the subject of the next video.